Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hey, Shannon, what's going on? I see you. Listen, can you hear me? I want to make sure. I normally use Zoom, and today I am using Webinar Jam, and I just want to make sure you can hear me. So if you can hear me, do me a favor and submit something in the chat. I just want to know if you can hear me. A thumbs up or something. Okay, great. Okay, Shannon, let's go ahead and get started because I know you have things to do on campus and all of that. And I want to make sure that you get the information that you're supposed to have today. So listen, before we get started, oh, the smiley face, I love it. Okay, I love it. It's so awesome. Anyway, so I wanted to I'm Dr. Deidrea Lyonga, and I really wanted to launch this Instructional Leadership Accelerator because I've spent how many years in school transformation? Like almost 20 years. I was in school transformation before I even knew I was in school transformation. I think I was abducted, kidnapped, if you will, okay, and placed in a turnaround campus or on a turnaround campus. And I learned so much as an education professional, from teaching to leading. I learned a lot. Okay. So one thing that I learned though, as I moved into leadership was that if you want to turn a school around, and if you want to do it in a stressless manner, you are going to have to sharpen your instructional leadership skills. Like there's no other way around it. And so what I see when I go on campuses, I now serve as a school consultant. And what I see when I go on campuses is I see a lot of people who rely on their ability to lead operationally or their ability to get along well with others. And in most transformational settings, that is needed, but it's not the only thing that's needed. You are going to have to be skilled in instructional leadership. So I've been teaching instructional leadership probably for the last 3 or 4 years, really heavy. Okay. And so now we're to a point where I have expressed some things as it relates to instructional leadership. And I just decided, you know what I'm going to do is during the new year, the instructional new year, which is now, because instructional leadership starts in April. So I said, you know what, during the instructional new year, what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk through this year with you. Okay. So as long as you keep coming, I will keep teaching. All right. So today I'm going to hop right into it. I know you have other duties, so I'm only going to be on here for like 45 minutes, 40 minutes now because it's 10:05. Okay. So I'm going to leave some time for you to ask any questions that you might have, but I'm going to hop right into what we need today. All right. So give me just one moment. And let me share this screen with you. I'm going to pull this out so I can see both you and this screen over here. Guys, bear with. I really appreciate you bearing with me. Okay, so before we get started though, let me see where you are. So what campuses are represented today? Do I have elementary, middle, or high? I need to know who I'm talking to. So if you're at an elementary school, just type that in. You can just slide in an E. If I'm talking to a middle school, give me an M. And if I'm talking to a high school, give me an H. And if you're district personnel, you can just give me an A for all. Okay. K through 12, virtual learning in Louisiana. Oh my God, I have been trying to help you guys for like years. Miriam Bennett. Okay. She said, oh, great, great, great. Okay. So I have basically district leaders here, right? So would you agree with me that when you walk into your campuses, or if you're virtual learning, when you have your meetings and you're talking to your campus or school personnel, would you agree with me that the one thing that most of them lack is the instructional leadership piece? And it's like you're trying to explain to them what needs to happen. You might run across a few leaders that are really good, but you're trying to explain to them what needs to happen, and it's like your paradigms just, they don't mesh. Okay. Yes, Miss Bennett, absolutely. In my colleagues, I have a company called Impact Teaching, Training, and Leadership Development, and we only support transformative schools, right? So schools that have been identified by ESSA or is high in minority or low socioeconomic demographics, right? And so I cannot tell you how many times we walk into the building and we're just like, yeah, you can't have pep rallies all day. 1, 2, you can't only focus on behavior and never go into your classrooms. And 3, if you go into your classrooms, you have to know what to say to the instructional professional that is actually delivering the instructions so that you can get the respect that you need to change your school, right? If you agree with me, give me an A, okay, if you agree. I see Miss Bennett. She said this is due in part to some leaders not having enough. You are absolutely right. Sometimes they do not have enough classroom experience, and it shows. It shows. Let me make this bigger for you guys. All right. So one of the things that I teach first is, first of all, you need to understand. Thank you, Shannon. First of all, you need to understand what an instructional leader is, right? It's kind of vague. Everybody has a definition. And when we say instructional leadership, we only think about instruction, or we think about curriculum and instruction. But an instructional leader is the person or persons, because sometimes you have really good instructional teams, which is why I told you guys, hey, bring your teams, because this is good information for your teams, right? So an instructional leader is the person or persons who effectively utilizes their operational, okay? That's the behavior, that's, getting the buses in order, that's inventory, that's understanding the financial aspect of the building. That's all of the operations, right? It's also about culture. So these are the people that are shaking hands and kissing babies, and they get along with everybody, okay? And you also have to have curriculum and instruction. You have to have all 3 of these things. If you don't have prowess in all 3 areas, and I get this question all the time, no matter what campus I go to, they'll say, well, what if you're only good in operations? Can't you just hire people in the other areas? Yes, you can. But as the instructional leader, you need to have prowess in all 3 areas so that you can have oversight and an aerial view of what is happening on your campus. I get confused. Sometimes when I go on these campuses, I'm like, listen, you have to have all 3. You can't be totally sold on curriculum and instruction and not understand how to run the building. And you can't be totally sold on curriculum and instruction and not get along with others, right? Because nothing is going to happen. You can't only get along with others and not have the C&I oversight to be able to give the appropriate direction that's needed based on the data. You can't do that. You can't just be operations and just depend on everybody else to get it done. You cannot do that. And I'm telling you, listen, I see a lot of that. A lot of that. I even see people teaching delegation without monitoring. Like that you're not going to improve campuses that way. And what's happening is we spend thousands of dollars going to conferences, and we're getting the information. But when it comes to the implementation curve, we're not able to do that, and we don't know why. And this is why. Because you need to understand. Now, at a blue ribbon campus or some other campus where, yes, it does take all components to function correctly. It does. And I am specifically talking about improvement campuses. Now, if you're a blue ribbon campus or you're some other campus that, hey, you guys can skate by because the parents teach their kids anyway, then this does not apply to you. But if you're on an improvement campus where the parents more than likely are not that engaged instructionally, and it is on you to show improvement, and you want to do it every time, then you need to have prowess in instructional leadership. And instructional leadership is composed of all three elements: C&I, curriculum and instruction, culture, and operations. Okay? So that's the first thing you need to remember. The second thing you need to remember is this. Instructional leaders don't just manage a campus, right? They manage instructional programs on the campus. Okay? So when we have our pep rallies and all those things, we don't plan those things first. What we do first is we plan the framework. So I went out today, or yesterday actually. My dad is a construction guy, all right? And so, look, I know my hat look, I don't have the little thing in it where I'm supposed to put this in there so it can just stick, but I was just too lazy, okay? Look, and look, I know you can't really see, but look at my vest. I came dressed and ready, okay? Locked and loaded. All right. So the instructional program, you need to be able to manage that. I can't say it enough, but we don't always understand what an instructional program is. So let's talk about what an instructional program is, okay? Because you are the architect of your campus. You are building your campus. You're getting it ready for 2024, 2025, or whenever you watch the replay, whatever year you're in charge, whatever year you play the instructional leader, you're getting ready for that next year. If it's April, right, you're getting ready. All right. And I'll explain that later. But you need to understand, first you need to understand what an instructional leader is. Then you need to understand what an instructional program is. So that's the coordinated and purposeful set of practices, policies, and strategies. So we do this already, okay? I don't want you to feel like it's brand new, but the word I want to highlight is coordinated. We're not just picking and choosing which place we're going to go and just reacting. This is a proactive response to building your campus, okay? So it is a purposeful set of practices and policies and strategies implemented within an educational institution to foster student and teacher learning, student and teacher learning and achievement. It encompasses operational, here we go again, cultural and C&I prowess, working together to create an optimal teaching and learning environment for who? Students and teachers, both. Now, what we do when we start building our program is we only look at student data and then we wonder why our systems don't work. You can't build an instructional program only on student data. You also need teacher data, and we'll talk about that in another session, but you also need teacher data, okay? So one thing you need to remember is what an instructional leader is. You also need to know what an instructional program is. This is, if I were a construction person, the position that you are in right now in the building process is the planning. We are planning and we're getting ready, okay? All right. So then you need to understand time. Need to have your timing right. So if you notice, I kept saying, okay, April marks the beginning. So today I'm just going to go through briefly and I'm going to talk about what should happen every month. Okay. And I did put this together for you guys so that you could have a copy of it. Let's find it here. Yeah, I'm going to share this file with you. So you should have it. Let me know if you did not get it, but you should have that file. Okay. All right. So you have to understand your timing. And what happens is we get to the end of the year and then we are overwhelmed. Everybody's overwhelmed. Everybody's tired. You start losing teachers. You don't have all your stuff done. You start running into your observation. I'm telling you, when I was a school leader, they used to get so mad at me because I would have all my stuff done. And do you know, thank you, Shannon, for letting me know. Do you know why I had all my stuff done? Because I understood time. Any child can learn anything provided enough time. I also understood that the instructional calendar, or the calendar that we get at the beginning of the year, for the district calendar, it did not help me to plan an instructional program on my campus. It did not help me to monitor instructional or to facilitate instructional leadership on my campus. And I used to get picked on too, because they used to say, oh God, here she comes. She has her calendars out, but guess what? While everybody else was frustrated and upset, I was not, because I was confident and I understood how timing works. So as an instructional leader, your calendar year begins now, April. So if you haven't started collecting data and collecting all those things, then you need to start. Okay. This is the month you start. You do not wait until it gets to June, July. And then you start that cycle of being anxious. So you're anxious. And then what happens? You go into July anxious. Then August comes, you're anxious because you know there are some things that need to be done that you did not have an opportunity to get done. And you didn't have an opportunity to get it done because you started late. Let's just face it, you started late. Everybody suffers. Your family suffers, right? Because you're going on these trips, but you can't relax because you got to take work with you. And it took me a long time to understand and to buy into don't do that. Okay. If you properly plan, I promise you will not have to do that. All right. So once you get your timing straight, and I go over that in my instructional leadership masterclass, but in this session today, this is just an overview. I'm just talking to you about what we're going to cover. Okay. I'm going to go through every month, and every month I'm going to cover some of these things so that you can get it ready. And at the end of this session today, I'm going to tell you what you need to do for this week. Make sure you get it done. And if your instructional team is not on here, you need to send them the link and you need to let them sign up. And every Tuesday from 10 to 10:45, unless otherwise noted, I'm going to walk through some of the things that are on here. Okay. All right. So we start in April. Everybody agrees. If you don't agree, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Keep it to yourself. This is a system I know works. Okay. I've turned around so many schools and now I have consultants and we do it all the time. We're always on. And I'm telling you, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but we do a pretty amazing job. All right. And this is how we do it. We start early. We tell our clients to start early. We walk our clients through this process and they always end up getting improvement, growth, and proficiency. Okay. All right. So let's go. Starts in April. So in April, what should you be doing? You should be planning, collecting data. For students, I don't really have to go through student data because I think the education system has now mastered that. We know what to do. I am going to touch on a few things later, but Listen, you should be collecting your student data. Okay. And I know you're saying, well, we haven't tested yet, so we really don't have it. Let me burst that bubble. Honey, just use your benchmark data. Do you know why? Now, I'm assuming your benchmark data was done with fidelity. This is why it has to be done with fidelity, because we need that data in order to plan for the following year. So I'm assuming you collected it with fidelity. So in April, you're going to use benchmark data. Why? Because over the summer, if you're on an improvement campus, they are probably not involved in anything instructional over the summer. And so they will lose about 3 to 4 months of information over the summer. We all know that. So based on that data, my benchmark data is sufficient enough for me to be able to plan. So if you are on an elementary campus, you should be collecting data for or using your benchmark data that you collected for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, or any other grade that is tested. If you are not in our country, whatever assessments you have used, you should be collecting that data. Okay, so whatever you use for benchmark, you should be able to collect that data. And you also need to go over behavioral data. For if you're secondary, you want to do this for incoming students because you need to plan for them. Okay. You also need to collect teacher data in the form of interviews, in the form of attendance, in the form of when you started the school year over the last since COVID, like over the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, right? When you started the school year, what was the average number of teachers or number of openings that you started with? Because you're going to need that data later in the summer when it's time to submit a proposal to HR for what you want to do next, right? If you don't find teachers, that's important. I'll tell you why later, okay? You want to draw the blueprint for the direction that you need to go on based on the data that you've collected, teacher and student data, okay? You want to draw your blueprint, at least the framework. We're building the foundation here in April. This is not set in stone, but it's just the foundation for what you want to do. Enough for you to be able to communicate it to the current staff that you have now and to your oversight. All right. So in May, you also want to prepare, or in April, you also want to prepare your school initiatives. And I have the list of all the other things that you need to do because I'm running out of time. So in May, when May comes, you want to take that framework that you put together and you want to start communicating to district personnel, communicating to your parents, incoming and current parents, right? And communicating this vision to your teachers. Okay, this does a lot of things for you because it gives them an opportunity to decide they want to continue with you. And it also gives them an opportunity to figure out whether or not they fit, right? So them knowing what's expected of them the following year, all of that is important. You're going to close out in May usually, okay? If you are in another country, then you would need to take this information and make it palatable according to your schedule. You need about 3 to 4 months to plan and implement for the school year. We usually operate off of 2 or 1.5, and then we wonder why we have so many issues. But this is what you need. All right. In June, you're setting the foundation for a positive culture. Okay. You're getting your counselors to create or to plan meetings with your 5% students, right? The students that are consistently have behavioral issues. You're conducting like your comprehensive teacher leadership trainings. You are preparing your bridge program for your incoming students or current students, however you want to do it, right? And you're facilitating leadership trainings. You are in the hiring process, and you're in the hiring process April, May, June, based on the information you receive from your teachers. So you're doing all of that in June. Okay. So you continue your hiring process and you're getting the logistics ready, because in July, usually about 2 weeks of July, you're gone, right? You're gone in July. So in July, you usually have a break, and you don't want to come back and hit the ground running. Like, that is so not attractive anymore. Cut it out. We're not doing that. Okay. So in July, you return and you're implementing these strategies that you planned for. You're ready to go. You should have already implemented some of them in June, right? So you also have staff returning. You want to finalize your implementation plans, finalize them, not start them, finalize them. And then if you don't have enough teachers hired, you need to start thinking about how you're going to make sure that you have your teachers hired, right? You're going to communicate that to HR, right? That attachment. Yes, ma'am, it does end in March, because the instructional leadership year begins in April. So it goes from April to March. In April, we start all over again. Okay. In August, you're going to kickstart your new year, or whatever month that is for you, depending on what country you're in. You're going to implement your bridge program. You're going to communicate your retake plans and your tiering strategies to your instructional leadership team and to your district. And then you also have to facilitate your back to school activities. This is like parent communication month, really, in August. You should communicate to your parents all the time, but in August, take advantage of that time. In September, by September, if you've done everything right, in September, you're just facilitating all those things that you have implemented. That's what you're doing in September. Okay. And also in October, by October, you should know like what teachers need additional assistance. You should know. You should probably re-tier your teachers to see where they are, but you should be aggressively monitoring instruction, aggressively monitoring instructional leadership, aggressively monitoring data systems that you put in place. You should be doing that in September and October, actually. And then you should schedule your mid-year check-ins just to see how everybody is doing, because in October, you need to be prepared to pivot if you need to pivot. By November, you need to understand that your staff is like an oven. When you turn the oven on, it takes a minute for it to warm up and get ready. And then when you're done and you turn the oven off, it stays hot, but it's cooling off. You need to know in November, people are still hot, but they're kind of cooling off. Like, so they're cooling off because they're thinking about December. And so all of your plans need to adjust to that mindset, right? We're getting ready to go out for November. By that time, and this is a very tough pivot for some, they don't want to implement teacher improvement plans because we have almost demonized it, but it's not. This in November, your teachers, all your teachers who need help should have plans. You and your instructional leadership team should have thought about how we're going to support these teachers, because a true plan needs some time to work. Okay. So in November, you want to make sure that you release those plans. Make sure you talk to those teachers and get them ready. In December, you're closing out the semester. Depending on what part of the country or what part of the world you are in, you may have retakes that you're doing for your students. So you have already gone through your interventions and things of that sort. And again, guys, don't forget, this is just an overview. I'm going to break everything down in the upcoming sessions. Okay. And then if you've done what you were supposed to do in December, when your staff comes back in January, you will have enough energy to carry them through January through March. Okay. And I know I'm leaving April and May for testing, but you will have enough energy to carry them. I will even say through second semester. If you return from Christmas break or from winter break and everyone comes back and they are so tired, they're drained, they just did not want to listen, that means that first semester, that first part of the year from April to December, we did not do our job right. But if they come back, I'm not saying they have to be happy. I'm just saying when they come back and they jump right back into the routine, they understand what we're doing. They have enough energy to do what you need done in those intervention months, because January, February, March, and April, depending on when your testing days are, those are intervention months. If they come back and they're ready to get through this second semester, you did well. You did well. Okay. So in January, you're going to reap the benefits of well-cultivated culture. The reason why I said reap the benefits is because I was thinking about, we're growing. You want to think about plants, right? In particular fruit. Let's say we're growing fruit. It takes about 2 to 4 months, 2 to 6 months sometimes, in order to see the fruit of your labor, right? If you lay down your culture right during this time from April to December, in January, you're going to reap the benefits of implementing an appropriate culture for your campus, a productive culture for your campus. In January, you are also implementing your intervention plans in supporting your students to prepare them for testing. And then you're also getting ready for mid-year assessments. In February, more than likely, you are going to give your mid-year assessments. You are going to have your benchmarks, schedule your mid-year check-ins, and in March, you're implementing those intervention plans, and you are planning for the end-of-year assessments and standardized tests, and you're scheduling mid-year check-ins, okay? You're facilitating them and starting your observations. If you follow this plan, I'm telling you, you will have a stress-less year. Stress-less year, okay? All right. So far, before I move on, let me ask you if you have any questions. Did anything resonate to you as I was talking? Anything resonate? While you're working on that, I want you to, next week, when we come back, then we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty next week, right? Today, I gave you a YAG. So for those of you that don't know, it's a year at a glance. That's what a YAG is. So this is the year at a glance for an instructional leader. Next week, or I'll say this week, what you need to do, you need to start collecting your teacher data, right? Because next week, that's what we're going to break down and talk about. We're going to talk, yes, planning early, Ms. Bennett, is key. So we're going to break down your teacher data. So your teacher data can be collected using empathy interviews. And here are 4 questions that I always use. You can put them in a Google Drive. You can do whatever. But here are 4 questions that I always use, and I tell my principals to use them. I actually have a group that is taking the Instructional Leadership Masterclass right now, and that this is their assignment, and I'm giving you the same assignment. You can't plan. Sometimes when we're planning our instructional program, it doesn't work because your staff doesn't have the capacity to facilitate it. So it's important for you to figure out what that capacity is so that you can marry what you know about students with what you know about the teachers that you have or the ones that you're going to hire, right? Okay, so here are 4 questions now. These questions changed my whole entire leadership career, okay? Whole entire leadership career. Question number 1, what are your strengths? What are your strengths? Question number 2. Where are these balloons coming from, guys? I have no idea. Question number 2. What is your area of growth? Or what are growth opportunities for you? You're asking your teachers these questions. Question number 3. Now, if you were a leader for the day, what would you change? And question number 4. What are some things we do well as a campus or as a district for those of you who are district personnel? Question number 1, what are your strengths? Question number 2, what are your areas of growth? Question number 3, what do we do well as an organization, as a campus, however you want to position it? And question number 4, if you were leader for the day, what would you change? Now, when I ask these questions face to face, right? Because I like to look at body language. Communication is more than just the words that you give me. So maybe it'll be online, or like we'll do a Zoom, or I'll have them in my office, however you want to do it. There's so much technology now. There are so many different ways that you can do it. Okay. So those 4 questions, you ask those 4 questions next week. I sure will repeat them, Ms. Bennett. Number 1. As a matter of fact, I'm going to type it as I say it. Number 1, what are your strengths? Okay. Number 2, what are your areas of growth? Okay. Number 3, what are some things our school or organization does well? Okay. Number 4, if you were leader for a day, what would you change? These are your 4 questions. I need you to ask listen, as a principal and as an assistant principal, right? Because you don't have to be a principal to turn a school around. You could be an assistant principal. A very strong assistant principal can turn a school around as well. I wish we would get rid of assistant principal, instructional coach, principal. I wish all of the leadership positions were just called instructional leader 1, instructional leader 2. Because that's what you need to be. There's no other way around it, guys. You're going to have to be an instructional leader, and time out for, I'm just operations, so I just hire people who can do it very well. It's time out for that, because while we're doing that, or what I like to call playing these games, right? Our students are suffering because of our inability because we have not mastered our craft, right? We could get a whole lot more accomplished if we would master our craft. If you agree with me, just type A in the comments. If we would master our craft, we could get a whole lot more done. Okay. Now, when you come back next week, this is what I want you to do this week. I want you to put those questions in a Google form if that works easiest for you. Now, these are called empathy questions, and these are the empathy questions I use. You can create empathy questions for yourself if you want to, right? You can create different ones. That's up to you. But I know these work. And when you come back next week, I'm going to go through all 4 of those questions, and I'm going to share with you what each one of those questions mean and how I collect and analyze data from those 4 questions. And I use that data to create my professional development plans, to figure out what kind of culture I'm building on a campus. Even as a school consultant, which is what I do now, even as a school consultant, I don't go into those buildings unless they answer these questions, right? Unless they answer these questions, because it helps me to understand what kind of culture I'm going into. And it helps me as the architect or the construction person, right? Oh, maybe that's how the hat was supposed to go. It helps me as a construction person to know what tools I need to use for this particular placement. So we're going to go over that next week. Okay. All right. So make sure you do that this week. However you need to do it, face to face, online, whatever you need to do, you do it this week. Because when you come back next week, I want you to have your data already ready. Okay. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you're coming back next week. When you come, though, bring your data, because everything that I say to you is going to make so much more sense if you have your data ready to go. I'm going to talk to you about how to disaggregate this data. I'm also going to talk to you about how you need to set up your teachers, like how you need to think about them, and how you're going to take that information to add to your instructional program. Oh, good, Tamisha. Tamisha, did you come to the one last year? I think I did one last year. I thought you came last year. I'm not sure. Anyway. Okay, great, great, great. Oh my God, I know. STAR testing is next week, guys. Oh my goodness. My prayers are with all of you who have STAR next week. So I'm I am thinking about you, and I am praying for every last one of you. It is going to be an amazing, a fantabulous year. You're going to be amazing. When you come back, I want you to bring your team. Okay. We're going slow, but we have to go slow in order to go fast. Okay. All right. I will see you guys next week. I will stay on for anybody who wants to ask me questions or who has a particular situation that they're dealing with, a challenge, and would like to pick my brain. I am all for it. Oh, you want to follow me on Instagram? You can follow me. The best place to follow me, though, for this type of service is LinkedIn. Yeah. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, now that's where I talk. That's where I'm my real self, right? Okay, Dr. D instructs. Okay. Hey, Abdul Kareem, where are you from? Mahida, I think is the correct pronunciation. Where are you from? Okay, Miss Bennett. Miriam, what's your question? Oh, New York, but you live in Atlanta. Okay. You have a very international name. Atlanta. Wow. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, Miss Bennett, what is your question? I'm waiting on you. I just changed the settings so that you can request to speak as well. So I don't know if that helps you. Okay, Abdul Kareem, you're trying to show me up on my webinar. I see you, girl. You are trying to show me up on my webinar. Okay. Okay. I just clicked the check. I don't know what that means, but I just clicked the check for you, Miriam. Okay. My goal is to become a district dyslexia coordinator. Okay. Miriam, is it allowing you to speak? Okay. I'm accepting, but I'm not sure. Do me a favor and just type in your. Oh, you said I can't hear. Okay. Let's see. You can't hear. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why you can't hear. Do me a favor and just type in your question. Okay, you said you can hear me now. Okay, type in your, if we're not able to hear you, you can just type in your question and I can answer your question. I see where you are trying to become a district dyslexia coordinator. Is that what your question is about? Okay, great. All right. What would you like to know about becoming a district dyslexia coordinator? I'm assuming that you're already going back to get your cert for it. You're already enrolled in some type of program. And you need to know in different states. I don't think you have to do that. I think in some states, you can just have your special education, like maybe a master's or something, and you can become a dyslexia coordinator. So don't limit yourself to just where you are. You might find opportunities in other areas that don't require you doing more than what you have already done. Okay. I would like to prepare for the role, and I would like your advice on how to prepare for the role. I already have my certifications. Good. Okay. Okay, good. Good. You already have your certifications and you're trying to prepare for the role of district dyslexia coordinator. Now, what I'm about to say, I am currently a district instructor. Oh, okay. So you're already in position to move into this role. Okay. You're already in position. What I was going to tell you is what is amazing about education, it is about people. And I would say to you, the first thing that you probably need, not in this district. Okay. Yes. Currently a district. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do to prepare for the role, number one, just be amazing at what you do. That's number one. Number two, you need to make sure a lot of people become masters of their craft. They're really good, but they don't play well with others. So, and listen, I'm saying that because that was me, right? As an assistant principal, I noticed I was so amazing at what I was doing. Everybody around me, they were getting promoted, and I could not understand it because I felt like their preparation or what they were doing was nowhere. Look at my hair. Oh my God. Okay. So it was nowhere near what I was able to do. That's how I felt. And that was a terrible way to feel. Okay. But at the end of the day, it is how I felt. What I came to realize as I grew in my profession is it wasn't my skill level at all. What it was my inability to be able to be flexible in my environment. Oh, okay. Okay, you're naturally an introvert, but you communicate well with others. Very good. Okay. You know, you can still be an introvert and do what I'm saying, right? So do things like go ahead and put yourself in that leadership role. You're doing the work, but you may not have the title. I would start surrounding myself with people who are already in that area and letting my current leaders and other leaders that I'm around know, like people who have the hiring power. You want them to know that that's the direction that you want to go in. Of course, I already know you're filling out the application and doing all that, so I'm not going in that direction. But people, I'm telling you, master your craft, but also start connecting with the people who have the decision-making power to be able to grant you the requests that you're looking for, right? You want to make sure. So if you're on a campus and your principal is there, principals are very well connected, right? So you want them to know, hey, I want to go into this area. So if you see this available, please let me know. Or if you are on a district level and maybe the chief academic officer is over your area, well, they are very well connected with student services, who's usually over SPED, right? So you want to make sure that they know that that's the direction that you want to go in while also doing what you want to do, right? So it might look like, when I was an assistant principal, I wanted to be a principal. So I always positioned myself. I made sure my principal didn't have to worry about the school, the campus. And all of my principals pretty much let me run their campuses, right? So that's the type of thing you want to do. You want to position yourself so that your opportunity can see you. That's what you want to do. I am certain that you are probably a master of your craft already. So now the only thing that you need to do is the connections, making sure people know where you want to go, what you want to do, making sure you are involved in anything dyslexic, anything that has to do with dyslexia. You want to make sure you're around, that you're involved. Okay. Did I answer your question? Okay, I'm going to take that. Yes, thank you for your advice. Okay, good. All right, listen, I'm going to see you guys next week. And make sure, even if like you're an instructional specialist, you know, a district instructional specialist, what you want to do is you want to maybe take those 4 questions and you want to interview your the leaders that you work with, right? So that you can better figure out how you fit on their campus, or the teachers that you work with. Any one of those. Any one of those will work. Okay. But when you come back next week, make sure you bring your data. All right. All right. I will see you guys next week. Have a great day.